Hello and welcome to Weekly Wind-Up. Now, graffiti or street art is still a contentious subject for some in society. This despite it being millennia old and currently used in all sorts of commercial areas. From Roman political graffiti to the lauded works of Jean-Michel Basquiat, from New York subways to the Damien Hirst-esque works of Banksy. Graffiti has made a journey from the streets to the galleries to the walls of celebrity houses. Yet up-and-coming graffiti artists still live with the reality of starting their careers being seen as deviants and criminals by the majority of society. So how is it that graffiti art is so popular, and how does a young artist hone their craft in such a disdainful arena? To find out, we're joined by Mark Harrison. Mark is a local street artist who has worked in a number of fields, including with young people, teaching them the techniques of graffiti. Hello, Mark.
Hiya.
So for somebody who might be unfamiliar with your work, how would you describe it?
Basically, basic graffiti forms. I use a lot of colour, contrasting colours and bold outlines. It's a mixture of what you would think of as New York style, which is hard to read, wild style graffiti, simple stuff as well, which will take them techniques but use the bold colours with simpler outlines. And then I transfer that onto a canvas and illustration as well. So it's colours and line work, really. From
what you're saying, then it's across quite a few mediums. Then you're kind of transferring from walls to other forms as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started out when I was younger, probably drawing cartoons and stuff like this, and it was like Dennis the Menace style things. And that moved on to started drawing cars and things like this, just putting everything at a three-quarter angle type thing. And then that moved on to when I started skateboarding, going down to the skate park. I came across some graffiti artists down there. And then from there I picked up the can and I've never really put it down. It's 13 years later on.
Right, so what was it initially that was so enticing about graffiti for you, do you think?
I think because I had an interest in artwork and I was already drawing things and constantly working on a sketch pad. I think it was a natural progression from me going to a skate park and skating down there and seeing this go on the peripheral. I was always wondering what that was, and I eventually got a chance to actually have a go with one, figured out that I was actually kind of okay with the can, and just carried on from there, really. It's the subculture type thing, really, that got me into it.
I mean, for me, like something that I've noticed walking around town recently, and I don't know whether it's necessarily to do with the budget cutbacks to the council and things, but there's a lot of graffiti that is going uncleaned now.
Yeah.
Certainly walking from the centre of town through the viaducts and things like that, and then up at the old college building, which is no bad thing for me. It's actually brightened up my walk to work.
Yeah.
But it's an unusual situation. Why do you think it is that governments in particular have such a disdainful view of graffiti art?
I think it's because, in their opinion, it's probably they understand they don't have the background that we have in it, for a start. But I think it's more so the case that it's unsightly for them, and to a certain extent they are right with the tags. If you find a messy back alley that's absolutely covered in tags, for some reason it does kind of sometimes promote a bit more further crime from that, because people see that an area is unloved and they think they can get away with whatever there. Yeah. I think that might be the case with that sort of stuff.
Follow-on question then, which do you think is more damaging to society, like billboard advertising or graffiti?
Billboard advertising by far, because you're being brainwashed with stuff that you probably wouldn't even know the underlying message. It's just consumerism, constantly buy, and then the second we start to actually want to use the environment itself, it's a no-no, which, yeah. I think the more damaging thing out of the two would be definitely to have something forced upon you, apart from, as opposed to people expressing themselves, whether that be tags, pictures, street art, graffiti. I'd always prefer that, yeah.
Yeah, and what do you think it maybe says about a society where that it's something that is seen by the public, like billboard advertising, is seen by the public in general as quite damaging to society, whereas a lot of people now are coming round to graffiti being an art form, and it's becoming used in commercial areas massively. I think, TV advertising, certainly music culture, it's being used across the breadth. What do you think that says about society?
I think it's one of do we only recognise people after they've had to go through the initial 10 to 13 years or whatever of actually struggling first? So you've got to, obviously to do anything, you've got to persist with it and carry on with it. So at the start, they're going after you at the start, so you have to go through this whole case of being on the back foot, in hiding and finding your own spot sort of thing, and then maybe 6-7 years down the line, once you start to get a bit of a technique or slightly good at something like this, that's when people start recognising it. But it is unfortunate that people have to go through them 10 years of like you say, of being on the back foot and being looked down upon for doing what they're doing before it becomes big business could suddenly step in, or people actually say, actually, there's a use for this. Well, I suppose it's like anything really, though, don't it? It comes back to when does someone start classing it as useful?
Yeah. I know you've spoken in the past in interviews about the possibility of opening up public walls around not just Huddersfield but town centres in general. Like, how do you feel that could benefit not just maybe town centres but outlying areas as well?
That doesn't just need to be in town centres. I think in general, if you're going to have an area that's completely plastered in graffiti, which is probably the lower end of the quality graffiti, why not open these areas up to people who are going to come and spend a bit more time? Maybe they took their own time, because vast amount of us will find a wall and we'll spend £100 of his own paint to do it, just because we want to get a nice design on that wall. They'll do the mural. Maybe that'll take them a week or so. Get as much as possible done. Well, biggest area, that would be the nicest really. And keep that maybe for 2 to 3 months, so that guy's artwork gets seen, he gets to do what he wants to properly, and he can show what he can actually do then. The area is going to benefit from it, because you've actually got a piece of artwork instead of just tags and all that sort of stuff. And it actually, sometimes if you get it right, that's when cafes and stuff like this start to come in, and you get your little pop-up coffee shops and stuff like this, because it is a quirky and cool area then.
Yeah.
But you don't get to that stage unless you give people a chance in the first place. But absolutely, that is the end game for me, is to open these areas up and just use it as a turnover outside gallery space really. So you get your muralists in, they come, they paint whatever they want. That stays for 3 months. Next guy comes in, does that, and the area is constantly changing then, but it's done in the right sort of a way. Something
that always surprised me going, certainly when I started going to graffiti jams, like organised graffiti jams with friends, was what you've just mentioned there about the amount of time and money in a lot of cases that these artists will put into their works. I mean, I remember going to one in Sheffield and we set off at 8 o'clock in the morning so that we could get there at 9:30 and they could emulsion the wall and let it dry. It isn't just turning up with a few cans and banging something on a wall, is it?
No, it's definitely not that nowadays. Like I say, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it that people don't think about. People think you just rock up and, like you say, you have the design or whatever and you can bosh it out in 5 minutes. And soon realise that it's not that easy as soon as you give them a spray can. But like you say, you have to find your area, pick a specific site for it, something that I try to do something that will add to an area instead of just detract from it. So it'll add a bit of colour or play off the environment. It'll take you an hour or two to emulsion the wall before you even start, then you've got to wait for it to dry, then you can do your piece, then you finish it off. So it's not a case of rocking up and doing it in 2 hours. No, it can take, if we're given the opportunities that we want to, like decent walls, we'll spend days there quite happily. Like I say, it comes down to how much time we've got and how much money we can spend on it.
How would you go about changing that kind of perception in society, that kind of perception of graffiti artists and graffiti art as something that should be frowned upon? How would you go about it? I think
we need to start recognising the fact that people's minds work in different ways. I think it's just a case of, if you've got passion for something, why do we crush that?
Yeah.
So there is always the initial stage. If someone's causing damage or whatever, I understand that it's costing people money, but if we do find people like that, why don't we take them, recognise that if they do have a passion for it, and push them in the right direction? I think society likes to corner people and put people into boxes, and there's not really a box for graffiti artists. We're not really accepted in that one, apart from when you suddenly become like Saner or Best.
Yeah.
When you make it big, but you've got all your years beforehand. You shouldn't be looking down at it and pushing people to say that you shouldn't be doing this. I think we should be nurturing it to say that it's a positive thing if it's used in the right way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time,
problem.
Mark.
Cheers.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this week. As always, we can be contacted by email, on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for making this programme possible, and to you for joining us. Goodbye.